Hi, my name is Katie Bashista, and in honor of Banned Books Week, I'm going to be talking about In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. So In Cold Blood is the true story about the murder of a family named the Clutters in their home in Holcomb, Kansas. They were murdered by two men, Dick Hickok and Barry Smith. The men were attempting to rob their house, but after their poor execution of the plan, things got really ugly really quickly. It's a graphic, tragic story filled with violence and crime, but it's also incredibly thought-provoking, and it's an important book. Capote combined journalism with literary work as he took on journalistic approaches by conducting extensive interviews for years with friends of the Clutters, detectives, sheriffs, and then also Dick and Perry as they awaited execution. So the main issue that people have with the book is that it contains violence, sex, and profanity. It was challenged in 1999 by a parent in Savannah, Georgia, who had concerns over its content being taught in her child's AP English class, but a group of protesters fought for the book and it remained in the curriculum. Similarly, in 2012, parents in Glendale, California wanted to block a teacher's request to add it to the AP English curriculum, but the school board voted 4-0 and allowed the book to be added. So the excerpt that I'm going to be reading is Larry Hendrick's account of what the house looked like after the murders. He was one of the first people to walk into the house. He was also an English teacher. He taught the son Kenyon. And so here it is. So we walked to the end of the hall, the last door, and there on her bed, that's where we found Mrs. Clutter. She'd been tied too, but differently, with her hands in front of her so that she looked as though she were praying. And in one hand she was holding, gripping, a handkerchief, or was it Kleenex? The cord around her wrists ran down to her ankles, which were bound together, and then ran down to the bottom of the bed, where it was tied to the footboard. A very complicated, artful piece of work. Think how long it took to do. And her lying there, scared out of her wits, well, she was wearing some jewelry, 2 rings, which is one of the many reasons why I've always discounted robbery as a motive, and a robe, and a white nightgown, and white socks. Her mouth had been taped with adhesive, and she'd been shot point blank in the side of the head. And the blast, the impact, had ripped the tape loose. Her eyes were open, wide open, as though she was still looking at the killer, because she must have had to watch him do it. Aimed the gun, nobody said anything. We were too stunned. I remember the sheriff searched around to see if he could find the discharge cartridge, but whoever had done it was too smart and cool to have left behind any clues like that. So as you can tell, it's very graphic. That's actually one of the more mild passages that I could have read. That whole section is about him describing what each of the family members looked like. So it is sometimes hard to read and to get through, but it's a really intriguing book and it's important, and I think if it's taught during the right time in a young adult's life that it can be really beneficial. I read this my junior year of high school, and I did a lot of growing up that year, and part of that was due to the books that we read that year and the way that my teacher taught it. And so this book actually ended up being one of my favorite books because of the way that I was taught to think about it, and I gained a new appreciation for authors. Truman Capote is actually my favorite author now, and it made me question morality and the death penalty, and it's just an overall really beneficial book to read.